It's that time of year again. Everyone knows that the holidays can become overwhelming quickly, so the sooner you get things done, the better. For both shoppers and businesses, the best time to score great deals during the holidays is Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, from household names to entrepreneurs who are participating in their first Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year. This Black Friday, join thousands of new entrepreneurs hearing for the first time with Shopify. Sign up for your free trial today at shopify.com/promo. That's shopify.com/promo. Go to shopify.com/promo and make this Black Friday one to remember.
Medea and Prometheus, Cassandra and Sisyphus, fates and furies, hubris, nemesis, catharsis, sour grapes and golden apples, opening Pandora's box and flying too close to the sun. The myths and legends of ancient Greece reach into every aspect of modern life. Often misunderstood, always romanticized, and sometimes deliberately twisted. To understand their truth is to get a glimpse into the universal themes that connect us to the past and to one another. This is their story. Welcome to Podyssey. I'm Alex Andreou. Each week we will take one myth, one concept, person, place or theme from ancient Greece, take it apart, figure out its inner workings, trace its influence, juice it for its wisdom, reimagine, update, and put it back together, shiny and new. Most of what you think you know about the story of Narcissus is wrong. This isn't a story of conceit or vanity. It is a story of coming of age and the corruption of innocence, unrequited love and pain, losing oneself and coming apart at the seams. It isn't even the story of one person. To tell the story of Narcissus, we must begin with a woman who would come to love him most, the nymph Echo, or Icho in Greek. Echo was an Oread, a mountain nymph. She was a girl of many great qualities, but one of those qualities was very special indeed. Echo had the most mellifluously magnetic voice. When she talked, anyone listening became spellbound. And like most people with a wonderful voice, she loved the sound of it. Echo could talk the hind legs off a centaur. She lived on the foot of Mount Kithaeron, just west of Athens. Kithaeron, unfortunately, was also one of Zeus's favourite hunting grounds for a bit of extramarital whoopee. Now, Zeus was king of the gods, the head of the Dodecatheon, the big feta of Olympus, if you will, but he was quite the lech. I could do several seasons just dedicated to his hypersexual debauchery. In fact, I might. Welcome to Podyssey After Dark. His wife, the queen of the gods, Hera, was always trying to catch him in the act. To be frank, it was not difficult. Basically, if he wasn't within visual range, chances are he was playing hide the souvlaki. So Zeus makes a pact with Echo. Whenever she spots Hera around Kithaeron, while he was pursuing his hobbies, she was to go up to her and engage her in conversation, have a little gossip, a little chat, just enough to give him time to make his escape. But Hera is no fool. She is as experienced at the arrest as he is at the crime. When she discovers Echo's complicity in the deceit, she is furious at the lack of sisterhood. To punish Echo, Hera strips her of precisely that compelling power of speech which had been used to shield her husband's infidelity. She curses her to never again be able to speak independently. She can only repeat. Indeed, she is compelled to repeat the last few syllables of any speech directed at her. Distraught, mute, and cast out from Kithaeron, Echo wanders woods and canyons. Meanwhile, in nearby Thespia, the hunter Narcissus, or Narcissus, if you like it the Greek way, is coming of age, and he is one fine-looking young man. Women want him. Men, well, as this is ancient Greece, also want him. His inbox bulges with aubergine emojis, but he is the most merciless left swiper. Nobody has the riz to tempt our boy. Now, we have all tasted rejection. It's not pleasant. We've all thought, I hope you meet someone who shows you what this feels like. But one obsessed suitor, which is a nice way to say stalker, Aminius, is so consumed by that notion that he takes his own life, and with his dying breath he prays to Nemesis, goddess of justice, to avenge him. There is power to such a prayer. Nemesis puts a hex on Narcissus to fall in love with his own reflection as completely and helplessly as those he has rejected fell for him. Unaware of the cosmic clouds gathering against him, our tragic twink goes out, as he does regularly, to hunt. Narcissus is used to covering up, aware of the effect his flesh has on those around him. But it is a warm day, and in the privacy of a little clearing, far from the town's lusting eyes and searching hands, he loosens his tunic, drinks a little from his water skin, and splashes some on his face. It is at this point that our two protagonists come together. Echo is meandering through the woods at her lowest ebb, dejected and vulnerable. She lifts her gaze, and through the trailing moss and quince blossoms witnesses this scene, the world's first Diet Coke commercial. She doesn't stand a chance.
Mad about the boy. I know it's stupid to be mad about the boy.
Transfixed and barely breathing, she follows a bead of sweat as it rolls down the back of his neck, traces the vein on his forearm, down to a set of fingers sculpted from Naxian marble. She catalogues every curve and every curl as if she is drawing him from memory. Oh, how she longs to whisper to him, to try to put into prose the poetry she feels inside her. But Hera's malediction will not allow her to begin.
Lord knows I'm not a fool girl. I really shouldn't care. Lord knows I'm not a schoolgirl in the flurry of...
She, whose words could charm the gods, now rendered doubly speechless by her curse and by his beauty. This she can do, however. She can await his voice, be ready to return his words. As he stalks prey for his bow and arrow, she follows in his steps, and the more she observes him unobserved, the more intense the flame inside her, not orange, crackling and warm, but blue and sulphurous and frightening. Finally, maybe sensing someone's eyes on him, because when you look like him, you do develop that sense, Narcissus stops and turns around. He calls out, "Is someone here?" "Here, here, here, here," Echo responds unseen. Narcissus lifts his bow and flexes it. "Are you some wicked spirit or a friend?" Friend. "Well then, enough of this nonsense. Out you come. You come. Annoyed, thinking she is mocking him, Narcissus makes one last effort. If you make yourself known, who knows, I might say yes. Say yes, say yes, say yes. She reflects with joy as she rushes out into the clearing, embraces him and tries to kiss him. But Narcissus is shocked, disgusted, violated. Who is this woman? Get off me, or heaven help me, he says as he pushes her away. Help me, help me, help me, help me. Breaking free, he warns her, leave me be and never return. And as he runs away, her plea reverberates. Return, 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 return. Echo is crushed, but her obsession is so great that she keeps pursuing him from a distance. He tries to shake her, but he can't. They get lost deeper and deeper in the forest. She lies hidden, covering her blushing face with mud and leaves. She rests in caves and hollows. He hunts small prey and eats fruit. She does not. For days, with neither food nor water, she starts to waste away. Her miserable body shrinks. Her skin shrivels, her flesh evaporates. Her bones burn from within. In the end, only her love for him and her echoing voice remain, diffuse, disembodied, dispersed in every wood and canyon and cave. Narcissus is also exhausted by the pursuit. Maybe he has been running for hours, maybe for days, maybe for months. Time is different in places where nobody's counting time. He comes across a clear, dark pool of water deep in the woods from which no man or animal has ever drunk. And this is where his own curse ensnares him. This is the original, the literal thirst trap.
Reflections in the water, just you and I, sweetheart. Each kiss becomes a ripple that circles round my heart.
As he leans over to take a drink, he sees his reflection for the very first time, and the hex does its worst. Imagine being so in love that you cannot take your eyes off the object of your affection, that they're not instantly reading the text message you sent plunges you into despair, that you forget yourself looking at them, that you sleep on their pillow when they're away just to smell their hair, that being parted is painful, physically painful, that desire makes your skin burn.
Hush of dawn, will our reflections in the water be gone?
Or maybe if you're lucky, you don't have to imagine it, just remember it. Narcissus has no idea that he is looking at himself. Somewhere between the magic of Nemesis and the profound, unprocessable confusion of first love, he is lost. He tries to look away, but he cannot. It takes him hours to pluck up the courage to speak. When he finally does, the lad in the pool silently moves his lips. When he smiles, the young man smiles back at him. The immense desire that engulfs him, he sees in his beloved's eyes. When he weeps with joy, so does his sweetheart. But every time he leans over to kiss him, he swims away. Every attempt to touch his soulmate makes him disappear. For days he doesn't move. The world around him shrinks. He doesn't eat or drink or care. The image pulls him ever closer. The noses almost touch. Moss starts to grow on him. His muscles begin to melt into the soil. His bones begin to dry up and crack. Critters start to consume him. Seeds germinate through his skin. Little spiders envelop him in a gossamer cocoon. As he keeps staring into the deep water, he feels life drain away and lays his head down. His last words are, "Cruel youth, farewell." And the very last thing Narcissus hears is Echo whisper, "Farewell, farewell, 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 farewell." When something so beautiful dies, the world somehow senses the loss. The nature deities and woodland spirits start to spontaneously mourn Narcissus. Echo reverbs their lament. They come to wash and sanctify his body, to rub olive oil into his skin, to fold his arms and close his eyes and leave a coin inside his mouth. But there is nothing of him left. All that remains is a bank of flowers. Jolly little things, with pale velvet petals, a yolk-yellow centre, and an intoxicating scent, leaning over the edge mirrored in the crystal water. After the break, I unpack the elements of the myth and speak to experts who help me decode them. What emerges is magical, profound, and completely unexpected. The detail reveals a more complex and beautiful tale than even I knew when I started my research. The truth is that all of these stories, and this is something we will discover together again and again, they have a headline. Man falls in love with own reflection, and that headline lends itself to a multitude of narratives. It can be conscripted in the service of different moral messages. It is entirely plastic in the hands of the talented writer, psychiatrist, painter, filmmaker, or preacher. So most of the time, we're looking not at the real Narcissus, but his reflection in someone else's pool. We are hearing not the real Echo, but her reverberation around our cultural landscape. Testament to this is the fact that one of the overarching themes that emerges from the full tale is something that is rarely talked about in relation to the myth: how intricately related it is to nature. The setting is sylvan, full of woods, mountains, springs, and caves, undisturbed by humans. Echo is a nymph, a minor deity of nature. There are dozens of kinds of nymphs, specific to everything from the time of day or night, specific to different bodies of water, specific even to certain trees. Echo is an oread, a mountain nymph. Narcissus is the son of the river Kifissos and the nymph Liriope, a naiad, a water spirit. The entire story takes place in nature, and its protagonists quite literally melt back into nature in the end. This connection between nature and divinity is no coincidence. It is a vital building block of all Greek mythology. I asked archaeologist Alexandra Andreou why this matters.
In hunter-gatherer societies, nature was not a separate part of life. Respect for nature was essential. This respect for nature was not simply about survival. It was embedded in cultural and spiritual practices. That means it became a core element of the way of life. For them, nature was not something to be conquered or ignored, but something to be revered and understood. In many of the prehistoric sites in Crete or Peloponnese, we can have just a tree or a standing megalith, and the ritual would evolve around that. This connection between the natural and the divine persisted.
As societies progressed to more permanent agrarian settlements and eventually even cities, this direct link may have faded, but its imprint remained. Athena's temples were chosen for commanding vistas, a cove or promontory for Poseidon. Holy groves are favoured by worshippers of Zeus. Apollo's temples are often found near rocky springs. In fact, geologist Gregory Retalak has argued that even the soil of a site of worship was important. Demetra's temples were almost invariably built on fertile black earth, while Hera's on soil suitable for pastoral activities. The link can be most clearly seen in the ubiquitous practice of the libation, the pouring of wine, olive oil, or blood into the soil to honor the gods. Nature is a conduit to them. The divine explained the natural, but in a creative rather than superstitious way. The lyrical was given priority over the literal. How easy it would have been to make the natural phenomenon of an echo a foreboding spirit of some sort, instead of the melancholy memento of a complex unrequited love. And the relationship was reciprocal. The natural, in turn, explained the divine. Soothsayers would consume sacred plants, consult the flight of birds, animal entrails, the shape of clouds, the way water moved.
In ancient Greece, nature served as a profound source of inspiration for people. And it was. I think in the relationship they had with the natural environment in everyday life, nature was not just a backdrop, but an active participant in their stories, with sacred trees, flowers, or other elements serving as symbols and agents of divine will. This deeply embedded link between the natural world and the divine helped shape the mythology and religious practices of the ancient Greeks.
Yet, even though the setting of the story is natural, what sets Echo and Narcissus apart is that they are somehow unnatural. They are somehow other. She has been stripped of a core aspect of her allure, her uniquely beautiful voice. He is someone who is given beauty but refuses to share it. Both are trapped by their reflections of sound and image, respectively, trapped by an artificial reflection of the natural. This is a more obscure element of the myth, but one that has persisted in the visual arts, literature, and cinema. Herman Melville alludes to the Narcissus myth in Moby Dick, focusing on the idea that bodies of water have a magnetic effect. They call to us, invite us to plunge. That in them we see what Narcissus saw, what Melville describes as the ungraspable phantom of life. I spoke to cultural historian Debbie Chalice about Caravaggio's famous depiction of Narcissus.
It's interesting you mentioned the Caravaggio Narcissus, because that almost leads you, when you look at it, you almost feel like you're falling into the pool with Narcissus because it's so compelling. And there's different depictions. There's a couple of them where he has what's called the happy inch, where he has a slight erection. And it's kind of implied that that might be about himself. And that's not seen as natural either. And then later on in the Renaissance, this story is particularly associated with the painter and the art of the image. It's also when mirrors come in. So perspective and mirrors and things were being used. And so, for example, Caravaggio had 2 big mirrors when he died in his studio. Bearing in mind, he died pretty much penniless. That's quite an extravagant thing to have. And he used that for this Narcissus. And mirrors are not natural things, are they? They are made and adapted by artists during this period and become ever more complex vortexes, if you like, of reflection. And they become essential to artists. But so does the natural world, which they're depicting Narcissus in. And the natural world around Narcissus, you've got this pool, which is natural, is almost there in the darkness. You don't really see it. So I think there is something there about artificiality and the unnaturalness of falling in love with yourself. And it's this idea of mimesis that's going on with, certainly with Renaissance art, of repetition of the image, that Narcissus' myth is so important to. And arguably, you get this again in the Surrealists, with the famous Salvador Dali image of Narcissus, but you've also then got a Max Ernst image of Echo, which is less well known. It's a reflection of what's going on. Both artists are very much, influenced by photography, about what the nature of the real is, and industrialization and the busyness of modern life. I think it's interesting that that myth is returned to at that point. Think of shiny skyscrapers that are being built for the first time. There is a connection between nature and mimesis and artificiality that's in the myth.
This link between the artifice of mirrors and the loss of innocence is also one that persists in countless cultural references. The artifacts known as katoptra, or mirrors, usually made of polished bronze, but even earlier examples have been found made of obsidian, a sort of dark volcanic glass formed when lava cools, were often used for scrying, a form of divination, not only to predict events, but also in coming-of-age rituals. Coming face to face with oneself was seen as an important rite of passage from adolescence to adulthood.
The myth itself has been interpreted by scholars like Ingo Gildenhard as an allusion to such rituals of passage. Gildenhard suggests that the myth of Narcissus and Echo might represent a young man's confrontation with his own identity, particularly at the moment when he realizes his own self-image and the limits of his desires. In ancient Greece, scrying rituals were often linked to divine practices, especially those involving young boys. Scrying, which involves gazing into a reflective surface, such as water, polished metal, or even glass, was a common method of seeking guidance from the gods. These rituals were often associated with rites of passage, making important transitions in life.
Think of the trope of having to face a wicked version of oneself, from Dostoevsky's The Double to Luke Skywalker in the Dark Force Cave and Fight Club. The doppelganger as one's most dangerous foe and a metaphor for the darkness inside is rich territory, as is the adjacent genre of the antagonist who becomes the hero, who takes over the hero's qualities, appearance and life in order to replace them. I spoke to film critic Linda Marrick.
A variation on the doppelganger genre is the cuckoo, someone who attaches themselves to the protagonist and little by little takes over their identity, replaces reality with illusion. From stock thrillers like Single White Female and The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, to more complex treatments like Saltburn and Parasite. One of my favorite examples is the 1999 Anthony Minghella adaptation of Patricia Highsmith's The Talented Mr. Ripley. Matt Damon plays Tom Ripley, a troubled young man who becomes obsessed with Jude Law's good-looking rich playboy Dickie. Begins to mirror him, mimic him, until eventually he takes over his identity. The story is almost a reversal of the Narcissus myth. Confident Dickie sees only what he wants in Tom, what he projects. Tom is the pool of water looking out, and self-loathing and envy, planning to pull Dickie in deeper, drown him, so he can take his place in the real world.
I'm sorry, Peter. I'm lost. I'm gonna be stuck in the basement, aren't I? Aren't I? That's my terrible and alone and dark. And I've lied about who I am and where I am. Now no one will ever find me.
What do you mean lied about who you are?
I always thought it'd be better to be a fake somebody than a real nobody.
Duality as a quality of wickedness and vortex that consumes innocence, especially through the use of a reflection, is something that has largely passed into modern culture as a weakness of women more than men. In most versions of Faust, the maiden's virtue, either Gretchen or Margarita as in Gounod's version here, is destroyed by a box full of jewels and a mirror. When she discovers it, she is full of joy. Oh, how I laugh to see myself looking so beautiful. Is it you? She asks her reflection. Is it really you, Margarita? Answer me. Is it really that easy to corrupt? Well, in a way, yes. Christian virtue in Faust is a proxy for a child's innocence in all those rites of passage to adulthood. In a world with very few mirrors, there is purity to not knowing if one is attractive. You are simply you. The moment that spell is broken, the moment you see how you are seen, There is no going back, especially if, like Marguerite, you are given jewels and fineries, tools of artifice that can make her even more attractive. She can never again become unaware of her sexual allure. A reflection is powerful. It can reveal the truth or it can twist it, show too little or too much. In most early dream interpretation manuals, looking at oneself in a mirror in a dream was seen as a portent of death. Breaking a mirror is 7 years of bad luck. A reflection is a portal and a summoning tool. It is where a vampire's true nature is revealed. It is how the demon abducts Carol Ann in Poltergeist, where the Candyman is summoned, where realities collide in Twin Peaks, and it is where we so often get our first glimpse of something wrong in horror films, from the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Polanski's Repulsion to An American Werewolf in London or Oculus.
David Aronofsky's 2010 Black Swan is part psychological thriller, part body horror. The Narcissus symbolism is everywhere. The protagonist, Nina, played by Natalie Portman, is perfect for the fragile white swan, but lacks the physical strength for the dark version. Portman has described the film as an exploration of an artist's ego and that narcissistic sort of attraction to yourself, and also repulsion with yourself. Hundreds of shots take advantage of the multitude of mirrors in rehearsal spaces, ballet studios, and dressing rooms. It is a cautionary tale that plays on the fact that obsession with image can change how we see ourselves, rarely for the better, that our reflection is a window through which the unreal can begin to change the real.
And so another subtext seems to emerge. Think of Tennyson's The Lady of Shalott. Something terrible will happen if she looks directly outside the safety of her tower. She can only look through a mirror, but it's a poor substitute, especially for affection. It dulls reality. I am half sick of shadows. She lives with little joy or fear, Tennyson tells us, and eventually, seeing Sir Lancelot directly stirs a passion that becomes her undoing. Think also of Perseus, facing the Gorgon Medusa who can turn a man to stone with her gaze, a subject we will explore fully at the end of this season. He defeats her by polishing his shield and only looking at her through its reflection. What is safe for him, however, her own reflection, is her demise. So is seeing the world through a mirror safe, but looking at oneself dangerous? Self-awareness, or lack of it, is a key concept here. For centuries, the mirror test used to be seen as a way of distinguishing high-functioning brains, reserved only for a handful of animals. Does the inability Narcissus shows of recognizing himself point to a lack of humanity or a mental immaturity that impedes higher function? Just as the mirror test is evidence of self-realization and glancing into a dark piece of scrying obsidian glass is a rite of passage to adulthood, the excessive use of a mirror, the anxious monitoring of one's image, can be about self-doubt. The anxiety of aging, for instance. Beauty is often not constant, but a time-limited offer. Reflections create a memory album, carry with them the echo of youth, become a frame of comparison. Take Snow White's stepmother, the Queen, a perfect extension of the Narcissus myth. The frame of her mirror swirls like a vortex, like a liquid pool, as she talks to it and is answered. I am silver and exact, writes Sylvia Plath in Mirror. A woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. In me, she has drowned a young girl, and in me, an old woman rises towards her day after day like a terrible fish. What you may not remember was that in that same classic Disney version of Snow White, just as the Queen gazes into her looking glass, Snow White herself takes on the other aspect of the myth. In her imposed virginal isolation, she converses with her own echo coming from the bottom of a well.
I'm wishing for the one I love to find me today. Oh!
Hello.
Oh.
Did I frighten you?
In fact, the first time she ever sees the prince is via his reflection. And in that moment, just like the Lady of Shalott and Sir Lancelot, her life is turned upside down. There is no going back. From that moment of becoming aware, there is a world of carnal desire. Call it a corrupting effect, or call it coming of age. Once the cocoon bursts open, there is no going back to pupa. This interplay between innocence and wickedness is taken to its zenith by writer, philosopher, and poet of the Baroque period, as well as Hieronymites nun, Mexico's Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, nicknamed the 10th Muse. In her play, El Divino Narciso, the divine Narcissus, Narcissus is Christ, and Echo is the devil. Echo uses the water to deceive Narcissus, presenting him with a false reflection, and it is only when he defeats the illusion that the water goes from carrier of sin to baptismal font. Echo has become a cipher of unnatural behavior in culture, sometimes the imposition of a stronger will on one's own, making the victim go against what comes naturally. I spoke to psychoanalyst Dr. Ruth Smith.
Women often lose their voice, like Echo did. The way in which a woman can talk about her lived experience and truly be heard is often filtered through who will allow and who will listen to her voice. And if women are seen less than, then their voices will be seen as less than. I work with people who are survivors of domestic abuse, and oftentimes their voices are ignored. They're ignored by society, they're ignored by sometimes family and friends, by police, the criminal justice system.
Usually it is a man that robs a woman of her ability to speak her thoughts. In the classic 1950 Mankiewicz All About Eve, a film all about self-centeredness, projected image, and the corrupting effect of celebrity, listen to how Eve describes her encounter with poison pen critic Addison DeWitt.
I remember I had a tooth pulled once. They gave me some anesthetic. I don't remember the name. It affected me strangely. I found myself saying things I wasn't even thinking. As if my mind was someplace outside of my body and couldn't control what I did or said.
And you felt just like that talking to Addison?
In a way. You find yourself trying to say what you mean. But somehow the words change. They become his words. And suddenly you're not saying what you mean, but what he means.
In other cases, echoes are a sign of fragile mental health. Most mad scenes in opera include what is known as a cadenza, often a series of repetitions, a dialogue between the heroine and a flute, a call and response to a sound that others around her cannot hear. In some cases, an echo effect is deployed explicitly. In Giacomo Meyerbeer's Dinora, the eponymous peasant girl has lost her mind after losing her groom during a storm on her wedding day. We find her in a clearing in the woods at night, dancing with her shadow. She talks to it, and the echo responds, here employed to devastating effect by the great Maria Callas.
the other hand, repetition can serve a really important purpose. It allows us to connect with other people. So in therapy, for example, we often repeat what the person has said to us, but more than that, we get below what they've said and we get to the meaning behind what they're trying to say in order for that person to feel truly heard and truly understood. And so in that way, an echo or a repetition, it can allow the building of empathy. And in fact, the role of empathy is absolutely core, actually, in development. When we're thinking about a narcissistic adult, one of the theories behind that is that perhaps their parenting lacked empathy when they were little. So there is potentially a correlation between our ability to express empathy and give empathy and the impact that has upon relationships and child development. So echoing can actually, in its own way, be a antidote, might be too strong a word, but a counterbalance to narcissism.
This otherness and the myth's connection to unnatural obsessive desire is also why the Narcissus myth has so often been connected to queerness. Debbie unpacks one of the most complex examples.
Oscar Wilde was very influenced by Greek myth, and Dorian Gray, the picture of Dorian Gray, is most associated with the Narcissus myth, partly because of, obviously, the portraits of Dorian Gray aging and becoming cruel, while Dorian Gray keeps his youth. So there's a kind of unnaturalness about that as Dorian gives into vice and treats people. I mean, the amount of people around Dorian who commit suicide in the novel, not just Sybil Vane, they do something for him and then they can't live with it, which again is a reflection of Echo. Also, this idea of self-love and putting that above everything else. Not necessarily being gay, because Basil, the artist who paints the portrait, he's the one with the moral compass, and he's definitely gay. It's more a kind of not caring about people. All that Dorian can do is love himself. Even at the end, when he tries to reform, he realises he's doing it for selfish reasons. But there is an analogy to sort of being queer for Wilde at that time because it's lonely. He often hides his passion for other human beings because, of course, he gets cursed even by his own physicality. The fact that he does share bodies and is treated badly, he's punished for that. And a lot of people think Wilde is very artificial, camp, if you're going to be stereotypical about it. And he is, but he has a passion for nature, actually. The other thing with Oscar Wilde, he goes to Greece once in 1874 and it completely influences his life. He's there with his tutor. He goes to Olympia where they're excavating, goes to Delphi. He goes to all these beautiful sites in Greece. And a lot of his poetry is then informed by them. His De Profundis, it's very complicated what he says. It's kind of a work of philosophy, really. He contrasts Greece and Northern Europe in this book, how he has to live in the shadows, not the sun. He can never really be seen. But in Greece, he could be seen and be in the sunlight. Greece has something natural about it that industrial society, particularly in Northern Europe, doesn't. We are out of touch with our own physicality, which I think is really interesting.
In fact, Wilde himself was parodied as a modern-day Narcissus in a caricature by Thomas Nast. He is drawn stretched out above a pool of water, gazing at his own reflection, holding a flower with the word notoriety inscribed on it. In the reflection, however, that word is replaced by the US dollar sign, the implication being that Wilde is a grifter who pursues controversy for money. Wilde, in fact, returned to the myth a couple of years later with a clever twist.
He actually writes a prose poem about Narcissus from the perspective of the pool that Narcissus is looking into, which is such a wild thing to do, to take a completely different angle on it. And the pool says, they say, well, how beautiful was he? The wood nymphs ask him, how beautiful was Narcissus? And the pool says, oh, I don't know. I was only looking at my own reflection in his eyes. So even the pool doesn't really see Narcissus. The pool is most interested in looking at itself, not just self-love, but looking and how we're looked at. You can't see yourself unless you have a mirror or a phone. How many people don't carry mirrors now and do their makeup on the phone? All that kind of reflection.
And it is this version of the myth that made it into the prologue to Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, the first Brazilian edition of which has Caravaggio's Narcissus on the cover. It is precisely this reversal of the myth, this flip of perspective, that provides the most potent clue. While these characters try to look into nature, nature looks right back at them. These threads are brought together in the darkly magical Guillermo del Toro 2017 film The Shape of Water, Linda dives into the themes.
Water is really important in every mythology. Its surface reflects the appearance of things, but the depth behind it is dangerous. The shape of water challenges society's views of the other, both literally and metaphorically. The film's monster is actually the victim, while normal people are the monsters. But this is also a film about humans' relationship with nature. Eliza chooses harmony over dominion. The creature becomes a metaphor for marginalized groups. The main character, Eliza, is a mute, chosen to work in the lab where the creature is imprisoned, because, like Echo, she cannot reveal the secret. By helping the creature escape, aided by a gay man, Giles, and a black woman, Zelda, Eliza is also freed. She finds her voice.
The poet A.E. Housman wrote, "Look not in my eyes for fear, they mirror true the sight I see, and there you find your face too clear, and love it, and be lost like me." This is just as much about being looked at as it is about looking, just as much about the inability to express love as it is about being afraid of the response.
Hasn't a ghost of a chance in this crazy romance. Oh, you go to my head.
After the break, in the final part of our journey, I ask, is Narcissus in fact a narcissist? And if he is not, if the meaning we have assigned to him for millennia is wrong, what is his meaning? A single connection reverses everything I thought I knew about this.
To my head. You go to my head.
So, knowing what we know, is it fair for Narcissus to have become the symbol of pride and conceit, of vanity and egotism? He is not a free agent in this story. He is cursed to fall in love with his own image. For what? For rejecting people who took it too hard? He doesn't even know it is his own image he is looking at. Narcissus is, in fact, an innocent. I asked psychoanalyst Dr. Ruth Smith about whether self-confidence and a refusal to give oneself away are signs of the pathology of narcissism.
It's an interesting question to ask whether Narcissus is actually a narcissist. People often have the idea of it as being what we would call narcissistic personality disorder. And it's really interesting because I find at the moment in my practice, a lot of people are coming to therapy and posing the question if they are a narcissist, to which I often reply, the fact that you're even asking that question suggests that you're not. And there are some times when narcissism is healthy. So we talk about maladaptive narcissism, which would be more like the narcissistic personality disorder, the sort of stereotypical view that we have of a narcissist. Whereas adaptive narcissism can be really helpful and actually a positive thing. For example, we can draw healthy boundaries in relationships. We can take pride in our achievements. We can have really good positive relationships with people. And so in that way, narcissism isn't always necessarily a negative thing. It's when it tips into the scale of being harmful to others that we become concerned. So to answer whether Narcissus is really a narcissist, I suppose the question is, what harm did he cause? Was it intentional? And was his motivation, for example, self-aggrandizement?
But if Narcissus has done nothing wrong, why is he punished? Two threads dangle from what we've talked about, enticingly loose. The first is the notion that divinity is part of nature, that the spiritual and the corporeal must exist in balance. The second is the executor of the sanction, Nemesis. Curses could originate from anyone with divine powers. Nemesis is not a generic justice deity. She's the bringer of balance, the corrector, the one who takes away when mortals are undeserving of what they've been given. Most of all, she's the punisher of hubris, a transgression against the divine, an offense to the gods. It's not that Narcissus refuses one person's affections, it's that he rejects all affection. His tale has parallels with that of Hippolytus, a beautiful youth, son of the hero Theseus, who has sworn himself to chastity. His stepmother, Phaedra, has fallen in love with him.
Hippolytus is repulsed by sex, he's repulsed by physical contact. And actually, in the Euripides tragedy, he's seen to be kind of odd because he doesn't want to share himself and he doesn't want to engage with sex. He doesn't want to engage with Aphrodite. So the chorus, he has some of their sympathy, but chastity in the Greek world is not like in the Judeo-Christian tradition. It's not seen like that at all. It's actually seen as unnatural. So Hippolytus doesn't return his stepmother's affections. And so she kills herself and leaves a note saying that he's raped her. Although you may think she wouldn't be, Phaedra is actually a very sympathetic character because she's burning with desire for him, and the way he treats her is so horrendous that even though she then sets him up, you have mixed sympathies. It's really a play, as Euripides often does, about extremism. There's an obsession with not having sex in the Greek world as well as having sex.
Phaedra's desire for her stepson might be depraved, but his rejection of all physical affection is inhuman. And so it is with Narcissus. He eschews the physical. He fails to understand that youth and beauty are gifts to be shared with generosity, not to be zealously guarded. That is why he is sentenced by Nemesis. There is nothing more unnatural, nothing more wasteful and offensive than the uncoupling of the physical from the spiritual, the refusal to explore pleasure. And Echo's obsession with a man she cannot have is just as offensive. This is why they both waste away quite literally and are reabsorbed by nature. If they won't use their bodies will be taken back. Ben Jonson got it. The poem Slow, Slow, Fresh Fount contains these lines: droop herbs and flowers, fall grief in showers, our beauties are not ours. Herbs and flowers, fall grief in showers, our beauties are not. Nobody in this story is asexual, after all. Those are very different myths. On the contrary, every protagonist in this, Echo, Narcissus, Zeus, Arminius, even Hera, positively burns with desire, but pointed in a direction that will not absorb and return it. Its reflected power is destructive. Free from preconceptions, Echo and Narcissus is primarily about the crime of letting youth and the reproductive imperative drain away, a crime apparently worthy of Nemesis' attention. It is a cautionary tale of wasted lives. And if we yank that idea to the present day, the parallels become really quite clear.
The idea that we need to sort of develop our sensual self, and that's as important as developing our emotional selves, our intellectual selves, does come to this balance that we need harmony in all of these areas. And I wonder if the role that online pornography is having, younger people are developing an idea of their sensuality that is not based upon their own needs, but what they think they ought to want, to desire, to look like. And in this case, I'm not talking necessarily about sexuality, I'm talking about the expression of the sensual self.
For what are Echo and Narcissus, if not people who exist primarily online, withdrawn from the physical world and melting into the virtual? What is Echo if not someone on X or Facebook who has lost the ability to express original thought, has lost her voice, and merely repeats and amplifies others in an elaborately curated echo chamber? What is a smartphone if not a piece of obsidian, robbing youth of its innocence too soon and ever sooner? And what is that still reflective pond, if not Instagram or YouTube, where we project the filtered images of our perfect faces and perfect homes and perfect kitchens and perfect dinners and wait anxiously, breathlessly for validation to be mirrored back to us. If you're the world's richest man, you might even buy the pond, command it to show you precisely what you want. 1,000 people thoughtlessly pressing the symbol of a heart can feel like love, but is it? It pleases you, but is it real? It feels like an embrace, but all the while the growing moss is swallowing you whole.
In Matt Spicer's 2017 satire, Ingrid Goes West, we are in the world of influencers where everyone wants to be the main character. Ingrid, played by Aubrey Plaza, is a troubled young woman. She is a loser who becomes obsessed with Elizabeth Olsen's Instagram celebrity Taylor Sloan. Ingrid wants the dream Instagram life, beautiful weekends in expensive Airbnbs, gorgeous friends, and a rich partner. For Ingrid, Taylor is the ideal version of herself. Everything is framed, tinted, and filtered. But as she moves to LA and injects herself in Taylor's life, she discovers that she has fallen in love with an illusion. Who is the parasite? The obsessive dysfunctional fan or the online grifter living off the dysfunction she creates?
So many paintings of Narcissus involve a somehow twisted physicality, the body getting into contortions, facing one way, but the gaze towards the water, as if his fight-or-flight instinct has been engaged, but his eyes will not obey him. The feedback loop of endorphins, that pool's algorithm, is drawing him ever deeper. So what happens when the virtual, constructed you begins to dominate the real self? If you spend days, weeks, years posting photos of your gorgeously lit and carefully angled face, your eyes seductively looking back at you, the skin filtered to Dietrich perfection, what do you see when you look in the mirror first thing in the morning? Who looks back at you?
Whilst having relationships online can be an incredibly positive aspect of post-pandemic life in terms that people are able to connect with others from similar communities, we need balance. We need a balance between our online parasocial, our online relationships, and also our real life relationships. And I think it's also important to be aware of the fact that when people are posting online, they're often presenting a version of themselves that might be filtered, photographs might be altered, they're presenting the best version of themselves, their happiest day, their biggest success. If that's not counterbalanced with a real authentic identity and sense of self, if one is living solely through their online persona, we can become disconnected from ourselves, who we are, what we want, what success looks like for us. And also that we are so busy living life as we think it ought to be, then we will lose connection with ourselves and potentially with those people who are in our real lives, because they might not recognise the person that we have become.
I don't wish to demean our online spaces and relationships. They are a lifeline for so many people for whom the physical world is too tiring or noisy or overwhelming, too full of jagged edges. Those spaces and relationships were a lifeline to most of us during the pandemic. But during that same pandemic, we also found that they are not always enough. They are not a like-for-like replacement. Our bodies are soft, peculiar vessels. They need sunlight. Our ears need voices. Our legs need travel. And our skin needs touch.
The earliest reference to the myth of Narcissus is found in connection with Demeter. In the Homeric hymn to Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, Narcissus is depicted as a beautiful flower that is irresistible. The flower itself is described with instinctive colors and a captivating scent, which entices Persephone to touch it. This act sets in motion the appearance of Hades from the underworld, who then takes Persephone to his chthonic kingdom. The flower of Narcissus becomes a symbol of the intertwining of nature and fate, with nature itself acting as a catalyst for the unfolding of divine events. So people have a connection to their environment. It's as though in understanding the world around them, its plants, animals, and landscapes, they were unlocking a deeper knowledge and wisdom that was critical to their survival.
Nature is unpredictable and dangerous. It is an uncontrolled environment, and so humanity keeps trying to leave nature behind, to transcend it, put it down like an unwanted piece of baggage.
I will answer you.
This is probably the most dangerous of those times. Every signal is seducing us to live a life that exists in thought alone, telling us we can leave behind not only our natural environment, not only other people, but our own physical selves. Resist with all your might. Avert your gaze from that pooling feed. Lift your eyes from that shiny rectangle of obsidian glass. Go for a swim. Plant a seed in a pot. Dance in places with no dance floor. Find your voice. Catch some sun. Listen to the birds. Pet a dog. Meet a friend for a walk. Hold their hand. Go on a date. Loosen your tunic. Hug your loved ones. Notice the world we share. The physical is sacred. To not connect to it is an affront. That is real narcissism. You can sign up to support the show for as little as $5 a month on ko-fi.com/Podyssey. Creative input, sage advice, and expert contributions by 4 veritable goddesses: Alex Andreou, Debbie Chalice, Linda Marrick, and Dr. Ruth Smith. Music by Mariana Sangeeta. Artwork by Simona Canelu. A playlist of all the music in the episode, as well as links to the films and works of art mentioned, can be found in the show notes. Podyssey is an audio production by Cooler Heads, written and presented by Alex Andreou. Quick experiment. Have a look at all the politics pods clogging up your feed. Do they leave you informed or just angry? Are you ready for something other than people talking at you? Try Quiet Riot. Welcome to Quiet Riot, I'm Alex.
And I'm Naomi.
And I'm the producer, Kenny.
At a time of rage, warmth, humour, nuance, they are acts of gentle revolution.
People actually like politicians who work together. I always forget that you guys do your research.
Try to explain American politics to a British audience. You've only seen a sliver of how insane it is.
Angstlos, in German, the last to go somewhere dangerous.
That's a good word.
Isn't it?
Racism is a bit like political pornography.
All roads lead to Brexit.
People want solutions, not division.
Actually, you come up with a solution that often fits better. I don't think compromise should be a dirty word.
I would delete and block. Delete and block. I've done that many a time now.
On Quiet Riot, we don't reduce our guests to one viral clip or one controversial quote. No disagreement by design, no gotchas, just real conversations. Zoe Gardner, Professor, Author, Hunk, Brian Klaas.
Dawn Butler. Welcome, Dawn.
Hey.
Sir Vince Cable.
Dame Emily Thornberry. Are you getting used to it?
It's just really panto.
James O'Brien. Zach Polanski. Welcome, Zach. It's Nigella. Welcome, Nigella.
Thank you very much.
Professor John Curtis.
Nice to be with you, Naomi.
Former UK Ambassador to the States, Kim Darroch.
It's Ian Dunn. It's okay to be serious one moment and silly the next.
Before the election, I was in hospital for a while. My surgeon was from Gaza. It was the most incredible person.
When she suddenly died, I was looking for things to do to keep my mind on something positive.
We're all trying to muddle through a pretty confusing landscape.
I don't want to do a Priti Patel here.
I wish nothing but the worst for that man.
This guy can't be a politician. He's got a mullet.
Not a mullet, not a mullet.
Rory, have you been practicing your Starmer?
I have.
So join us for a different kind of politics podcast that takes a breath and counts to 10. Join us for a quiet riot, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Quiet riot.
British radio presenter James O'Brien is not easy to warm to. What? This is mainly due to his personality.
This is appalling. I thought I was coming for a nice, easy afternoon.